Titanfall. It made many headlines during its launch period for the wall running, mechs, and multiplayer exclusivity, but most infamously its storage capacity on PC, demanding 50 gigabytes to install. And it wasn't the only big boy. In fact, 2014 seemed to be the dawn of thickness. Wolfenstein New Order, Advanced Warfare, and Shadow of Mordor all required 40 gigabytes or more, which was considered ludicrous. For someone with a 10 megabit per second internet connection, they would start the download, go to work, come back from an 8-hour shift, and still be downloading for another hour, all for a single game. So it says something then that when Doom Eternal was announced to be 40 gigabytes at launch, I breathed a sigh of relief. Titanfall, Mordor, New Order, that's baby shit, at least when compared to the Evangelion monoliths of today. Large PC games might still be producing the same headlines, but the number in said headlines risen substantially over the last 5 years, even during the making of this very video. We've got patches as big as those old games. Hell, it's not just the personal computer today, as consoles are handling games that are over 100 gigabytes in storage. So, why? Well, it's important to explain how much of this is necessary. I've been modding the Mass Effect trilogy again with the most popular texture mods updated for more detail, and even updated with high-resolution cutscenes, either remade in Blender or upscaled by AI. It's pretty awesome, but this isn't the 4K mod, it's the 1080p one. Because Mass Effect 3's 4K cutscene mod is 16 gigabytes. The DLC packs another 15. That's not because the game is overly littered with cutscenes or the modders are rendering AVIs and After Effects. That's just how much space 4K resolution video takes, and until we manage to rewrite how data itself is preserved, that's not going to change. For those with the ability and desire to play the latest AAA games at high resolutions, even with compression, intelligent bitmaps, and optimized bit coloring, textures and cutscenes alone will assuredly push your game to the 30 to 50 gigabyte range. 1280 by 1280 textures are approximately 3.6 megabytes. 4K textures are as much as 64. It's not just the big things like character models, but logos, UI, and skins which quickly eat up data on high resolutions. Software engineer Kiprian Cludd has a great reference point. This opening screen for Heroes 2 of Might and Magic, The Succession Wars, is 300 kilobytes. In Destiny 2, 300 kilobytes is only enough to process this single icon. If not, requires more. And this concept of the little things accumulating to a larger whole hints to another reason why many modern games are so large. A reason that's more questionable. Yes, games with 4K textures and video are inherently massive and look superior to their predecessors which lack them. That's reasonable. But are we really meant to believe a 1v1 fighter necessitates a larger file capacity than open-world RPGs? Or that a driving sequel has to be 70 gigabytes larger than its predecessor? Or a 5v5 house shooter being bigger than Assassin's Creed Odyssey? There's something all of these games have in common though: post-launch content. Dirt Rally 2.0 is 70 gigabytes bigger because of DLC that, whether you own or not, installs to your system. Presumably this is so when you're playing and want to start an event featuring a car and stage you don't have, all it takes is one quick purchase on the store to change that. DOA 6 has it too. Lots of it. Endless amounts of it, in fact. Once again, installed to all owners of the base game, even the free-to-play core Fighters version with 4 characters. And if your instinct is one dress couldn't be that big, remember, it's not just a dress, it's a 4K dress. Multiply that hundreds of times and it explains how a game so simplistic on the surface can dwarf those with larger worlds. According to R6 Loot, Rainbow Six Siege has 1,448 cosmetics just in headgear. There are 132 skins for the L85. There's something messed up in forcing players to download heaps of data for a microtransaction economy, which by its design is meant to withhold things unless you pay or play. I'm not saying post-launch content is the only reason games are so big today, but it's often an ignored reason, likely because it's assumed these cosmetics don't mean anything. They're just skins. How can skins take up as much data as a new level? But these games only have a couple dozen maps at best. Cosmetics, those operate in the thousands. Speaking of Siege though, it did something helpful, release an optimization patch and bring the game's file size down by 20 gigabytes. This is a rarity. Games today are reported by multiple developers to be riddled with duplicate files, uncompressed audio, 32-bit color and grayscale textures, even shipping 10 languages of audio to everybody regardless of region. Now, some of this is done in the name of the user's experience. File duplication is done for the same reason developers did it on the PS3, to reduce load times. Titanfall had 35 gigabytes of uncompressed audio to assist low-end computers which couldn't decompress audio fast enough to retain a high frame rate. More people being able to play games is always a good thing, but there are several caveats to this. For one thing, this is assuming somebody with a poor computer has great internet. And second, users with more than a dual core were storing 35 gigabytes of uncompressed audio for no benefit. Uncompressed audio to improve performance has a low bottleneck, an exclusive benefit to those with the most minimum of requirements. Contrast this to Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Initially listed at 175 gigabytes, it was then proclaimed to be 80 gigabytes instead. That sounds impressive, but it really isn't. They simply made the high texture pack an optional download, meaning they were originally going to force everybody to download 175 gigabytes for settings the majority of consumers wouldn't be able to run even if they wanted to. Considering how many people with high-end machines pursue frame rate over texture quality, myself included, that fraction may be even smaller. This lack of consideration for consumers will undoubtedly vary across the industry. Some say it's merely a symptom of having hundreds of people crunching at the end of development, where everyone's prioritizing the game's stability rather than file size. Others say it's the complacency modern developers have, which couldn't exist in previous generations when games had to fit onto a disc. It's also theorized where games are developed fuels the complacency. Cliff Harris of Positic Games said to Digital Trends in 2017 that games are mostly developed in big cities by young people in tech hubs, where everybody has fiber optic and download speed is never a concern. Plus, there are still some idiots who mock a game for being a small download size. Yes, that actually happens. So, there are tons of reasons games today are literally getting bigger and bigger. Some of them are reasonable, some are debatable, and some are inexcusable. And the reason Modern Warfare 2019's 250 gigabytes is Infinity Ward made a game with all of them. Massive levels, heaps of content, a plethora of post-launch additions, uncompressed audio, multiple languages, high-res textures and cutscenes, the lot. But even the realities are accompanied by something else that's inexcusable: the lack of choice. Why can't we compress audio on faster machines? Why can't we delete high-res textures on slower machines? Why can't we uninstall modes we don't play? Why can't we select the resolutions of cutscenes we watch? Why can't we disable cosmetics? Well, I know why for that last one, but this is the real problem: the lack of consideration for consumers downloading these games. Now, admittedly, I'm currently speaking from a position of privilege. I've got high-speed internet in a bustling city. But for most of my life, I lived on a tiny island in the middle of nowhere with 2 internet service providers, Shaw 10 or Telus 5. Tough choice, I know. So I'm very familiar with canceling gaming sessions with friends because our multiplayer game of choice released a 10 gigabyte update, taking hours to download, assuming your connection's stable. If I had that internet today, I wouldn't even think to download games like Modern Warfare, Dirt Rally 2.0, or Hitman 2. It'd take literally days. Even if the game in question was free, downloading isn't. Data caps are the norm, and to think someone's capacity is being used because a studio can't be fucked or is too busy to optimize their game's file size is seriously messed up. It's a popular conspiracy theory that games like Modern Warfare are intentionally inconvenient to prevent alternatives being installed on people's consoles. I wouldn't have put that past Activision, but I also know there's a large group of people who don't install it because of the inconvenience. And if companies like Activision want to squeeze every dollar from every consumer, which they do, at some point there has to be a line, which they have drawn. With the exception of Warzone, you're now able to remove sections of Modern Warfare, dismissing the theory. However, this is only one step in the right direction. Now, I'm not naive, they have worked this out. The average download speed in America is 50.2 megabits per second. The latest consoles start at 1440p, and more than 35% of US households have a 4K television. The demand for high-quality assets exists, and major markets have the infrastructure to access it. Unlike the 8th generation, where companies thought consoles were going to fade away completely to the mobile market, now they're planting the seeds early. Nonetheless, that investment for the future doesn't eliminate the problems of the present. Yes, America has places with fast internet. There's also ones with no broadband at all, towns with a single service provider, and connections more unstable than the Mako's physics. And God help you if you're a developer living in these areas. What's being asked isn't unreasonable. We've hosted optional texture packs, we've allowed file compression, we've rendered multiple cutscenes, and we've sectioned off modes. Why not make these things a standard? Pirates have already been doing this for years. If you're going to let consumers have agency over resolution, controllers, and even version of the game they play, customizing what to download and store is just one more branch on the tree. This problem isn't going away anytime soon, but it can be addressed tomorrow. So I got about 50 Need for Speed questions, and I'll save those for the near future. Can you teach Tinfoil how to play zombies properly? Tinfoil the person? No. Tinfoil the material? Yes. If Raycevick is so good, where is Raycevick 2? I thought I'm White Light. When will you admit Black Lagoon is bad? Fuck you! Is Bungie an indie developer? If they are, then I'm waiting for Gnop Remastered. Is this worse than COVID? Ask Hudson. When will you do a weekly event called Sandtrap Sundays, where for the whole Sunday you play Sandtrap? After Halo Wars years later. What is your favorite Star Wars game? Definitely KOTOR 2, though I should probably replay it, being that I've since become a Star Wars fan, not just a KOTOR fan. In fact, I should probably give multiple spin-off games a second chance. Though I'm sorry, I still haven't changed my mind on Battlefront. Can you sum up 2020 in one sentence?